Okay, Ma'adim l'simcha, everyone. Can everybody hear me now? So one of the things that we do is that this year is going to be a little different. Every year I have the tradition of taking from the Inbal Hotel to Kever Yosef, Elon Moreh, and obviously this year is going to be very different. And I'd like if everybody could just for a minute imagine if we were gathered in Yerushalayim, waiting outside the Inbal. And usually, let me just kind of set the scene for you of how things usually go. That there's a lot of traffic, and we're all scrambling to get WhatsApp's going, and hold the bus and wait for me, and then we get together and we get on the bus, and it's usually a very cool evening. Even if it's been a warm day, as we all know, in the evening in Jerusalem, it cools down at night, and there's a lot of anticipation. And the first thing that we do is that we get on the bus, and everybody gets on the bus. This would be our bus, and if everybody would get on the bus with me, and we take attendance. And if everybody who's watching could sign into chat or say hello, say where you're from, who you are, and where you're from, where you're listening. That would really give a sense, I think, of being together. And since that we can't all be together this evening here, it's this evening here in Israel. It's wherever you are. If you're on the East Coast of United States, it could be 1 o'clock. If you're in Houston, it's around 12 o'clock. And it gives us a sense of being together. So if people would sign into the chat and say hello, which I think that would give us a sense of being together. Before we get started, I also want to speak about why I'm using this format versus let's say Zoom. I've looked at a number of different virtual tours, and a lot of us have spent time on probably a lot of Zoom meetings, and one of the things that I'm hoping to do is use technology to be able to again give us an experience that can sort of recreate. Again, we can't do this in person. There's no trip tonight to Kever Yosef, but using video, some of the videos, some videos that I put together, and some other things. It looks to me like YouTube would be the best format to do this. So without further ado, okay, we are going to get started, and we will move along. As everybody on the bus, I hope that everybody's on the bus. Also, again, one of the things that we do is this is obviously we're Chol Hamoed Sukkot, and usually our trip to Kever Yosef really coincides with the Ushpizin of Yosef. And again, it depends on how you count it, how you look at. Some people count tonight, again here in Israel, It's already the sixth night of Sukkot, but there are other opinions that Yosef is not the sixth night. But if you hold of a different night and you're in the States, let's say, you're still Yotze. Now, some of the things that I'm going to base this tour on are things that I heard from Rabbi Yosef Weinstock, who is the rabbi of the Young Israel of Hollywood, Florida. And also I'm using a book called Tribal Lands, written by Tamar Weissman. It's a book about the 12 tribes of Israel and their ancestral territories. What I find interesting is that many of the people who have been on this trip before, and again, in some ways I'm a little surprised because if you've been with me, and some of you have been with me a number of times, what you're going to hear is not really new. But again, like I say, with technology, that affords us some luxury that we don't have when we're traveling at night. So the question is, why is Yosef? What's the connection between Yosef and this time of year, this time period, the Yamim Noraim, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot? And we probably could go through each one of the Ushpizin, and we could find some type of connection. But I thought that what Rabbi Weinstock talked about in terms of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur was very fitting, and I think that we can connect it as well to Sukkot. Yosef, as we know, is a transformative figure. He is a person that really goes through a big change in life. At the age of 17, he is sold into slavery. He goes from the house of Yaakov. He's sold by, he's almost a prince in the house of his father. He is taken by his brothers. The relationship between his brothers is not good, and we all know the story that his brothers sell him, and he ends up in jail in Egypt, and he then and becomes the number 2 man in Egypt. So one of the things that we learned is that Yosef was actually released from prison on Rosh Hashanah. The other thing that we learned that Rabbi Weinstock said is that that Yosef, according to, there's a sefer called the Sefer HaYovel, the Sefer of the Jubilee. It's not it's something that you would probably look at as maybe as a midrash. So it's not necessarily authoritative, but it does sort of give us some kind of context. And the context is, so again, according to the Sefer Yovel, Yosef was sold on Yom Kippur. And the reason why that Yom Kippur, for generations, the 10th of Tishrei, becomes a day of that we have to afflict ourselves, is really a sense of this atonement that we have to do for the sale of Yosef. And if the other thing is, we know that what does the Kohen Gadol do? The Kohen Gadol takes a goat, and and that is the main sacrifice of the Kohen Gadol. Well, they take to the Azazel, and but what did the brothers do? The brothers killed a goat, and they put his coat, his multicolored coat, into the blood of the goat, and took it to his father, and so that's what's happening in this time period. And Yosef of all the the avot, or the Yosef is referred to as Yosef Hatzadik. So why is he Yosef the Tzaddik? Hold on 1 second. Just answering somebody. Okay. So why is he called Yosef Hatzadik? Because again, Yosef was able to forgive his brothers, and again at this period of time, in Yom Kippur, all right, where that's what we're supposed to do. So Yosef is the epitome of forgiveness. So someone just asked me, when is the tour? So the tour, if you've come expecting that I'm going to actually take you, if I'm going to take you on a tour where we're going to go and I'm going to be driving, that's not the case. I'm just right now we're moving. We'll be moving through different visuals. I'll be using Google Maps, Google Earth, and the first place we're going to go to is Jerusalem. Okay, that's where we're starting out. Now, when we do our tour, again, the tour is something that we're visualizing. Okay, we're using Google Maps to get an idea in the sense of what it would be like to drive or to go out and through the Binyamin area, the Shomron, out to Elon Moreh, and then to Kever Yosef. Again, before we start our journey on the road, the Route 60, which will take us out of Jerusalem, I want to show you three maps, a series of three maps. These maps these maps are of, this one is Nachalat Binyamin. This is the area that was assigned to the tribe of Benjamin. So you see that the border is with the tribe of Judah, of Yehuda. All right, it's all in Jerusalem. You see Beit El to the north, and you see Jericho to the east. Okay. Okay. So the next map is of Ephraim. So as we will continue up north, we would pass from the border between the tribe of Benjamin and Ephraim will be at Beit El, and we'll see places like Ophrah, Shiloh, Malay, Livana. Well, back in the day, it was called Livana, and Tapuach, and then we will finally get to Nachalat Menashe. Nachalat Menashe, this is actually cut off. It begins at Shem and goes north. Now, the Shevet of Menashe took, if we remember, half of Shevet Menashe stayed on the east side of the Jordan, and half came into Eretz Yisrael. Now again, these what we're talking about are the Ephraim, Menashe, and Benjamin are all the children of Rachel. I'm sorry, Rachel. So Yosef is the father of Menashe and Ephraim. Yosef had he split his one tribe, split into two, and there's Benjamin. Now, as we move out to, we leave Jerusalem, we go out on the highway, and we hit a place right before we get to the settlement of Adam, a place called Kubur Bani Israel. So, what's Kubur Bani Israel? This is this area. Kubur Bani Israel is what some people feel might be the burial spot of Rachel. Okay, so now, so it's interesting to me. I'm always fascinated by this whole story of where is Rachel really buried in Kever Rachel, and so we traditionally think that where is she buried? She's buried. It says in the pasuk in Bereshit that there was some distance, or Kirvat Haaretz, before Efrat, and Rachel goes into a difficult labor and she dies, and she was buried on the road to Efrat. That was Beit Lechem. Okay, so and then later on, we know that in Yirmiyahu and the Navi, it's referred to her that we hear of that Rachel will cry for us. It says a voice is heard from Ramah, crying and weeping bitterly. Rachel weeps for her children, and then she refuses to be consoled, for her children are gone. So, so this is this area, and we'll see a little bit more here of where exactly this is. It's not an easy place to get to. It's right off the highway, on the right hand side. From what I understand, I know people who have been here. It's really not. You have to park somewhere, and you have to hike up, and it's not simple whatsoever. So it's easy to get lost. Now let's pull back here for a second, okay, just to get a little bit more of a perspective. Okay, so what you're going to see here, this is the highway out of Yerushalayim. Okay, and we will be taking this highway up towards up north. So down here is what's called the Wadi Kaut, or the Ein Prat, the Prat River. Now, what does Prat sound like? It also sounds like Efrat. Okay, and one of the things that we learn about Beit Lechem, Beit Lechem was usually referred to as any city that was a large city that you could stop and you could get bread, was called Beit Lechem. Okay, so that is so it's very possible. And then if we go back even a little bit more, okay, this area is right near Ramallah. Okay, Ramallah is a little bit out this way, and when they talk about the Ramah, okay, where was Ramah? Ramah was a little bit outside of Ramallah. If you've ever been, you've taken 443 from a place like Modi'in. I live in Modi'in. Someone asked, where am I? I live in Modi'in. So you pass what was supposed to be King Hussein's palace. So if you are aware of that place, that area, that's what Ramah is. Okay, so when you say that a voice was heard in Ramah, in other words that Rachel was crying out from that area. Again, I mean, to me, does it matter? Does it really, how significant is it? The other thing is that, as we see, Rachel, if Rachel was really buried in what we consider today what we consider today her burial place, that is really located in Shevet Dan. Okay, and why would one has the question, and I believe actually even there's Cheskuni who asked the question is, why would Rachel be buried in the territory that does not belong to one of her children? So it really would make sense that here in Binyamin that she would be buried in this area. Again, let me also just go back as we are going to continue on this journey down the road. We're going to be talking about the Shomron and the Binyamin area, and again with the maps that I just showed you, there's a difference between what we call the biblical Shomron, okay, the area that makes up that the Tanakh refers to as the Shomron, which this here is part of, would be part of the overall Shomron, and today geopolitical Shomron, which is there's the Shomron Regional Council, which is somewhat different, and this is where we are sitting right now, is part of the Binyamin Regional Council. Okay, we will continue north now, okay, and the next town that we would get to is Beit El. I think everybody, we could go through every one of these towns, and we would have a lot to say. And after we would get to Beit El, we would hit the town of Ofra, the settlement of Ofra, and after that we go up 60. And one of the things I always talk about is that we hit this really interesting place called Termos Aya. Okay, and you can really, here we would be on the bus and we would pass quickly, and you would see these palm trees. Okay, and it's this really fascinating. At least from from the highway, this is actually located in PA territory, and so you, it's somewhat incongruent to see a town of with a whole bunch of palm trees. You'll see that the houses look very, very nice. Now, what is this town? This town really, it goes back to the I think the early or mid 1800s when Templar tourists came. They discovered Shiloh, and they came, and they so there would be all this connection to Shiloh, and so these Arabs developed this town here, and they would service sort of the tourist industry, and then this has developed into a town where expat, most people refer to them as Palestinians. I call them Arabs. These are their summer homes. They live in America or Panama, other places. They're very, very wealthy, and they come back here during the summer. Apparently, this is known as kind of a ghost town. Again, you see one of the homes, very, very well-to-do, and it's called Termus Aya. Okay, I always have found this a very fascinating place, at least, again, from the road, that I've always wanted to visit, and this today has afforded me the chance to go visit. Now, we will continue down the road, and we hit, as I just explained, Shiloh. Shiloh served as the site of the tabernacle. Again, there's a lot to see here. We can, again, with Google, we can get a little bit of a sense of what the town looks like, or what this yeshuv looks like. And if you have not visited Shiloh, I would strongly recommend that you spend a couple hours there on one of your next visits. Okay. Then we would hit Eli, and One of the things that I want to do as well, I know I'm kind of skipping around here, is we're going to take a look at Ariel. This would be one of the, we would hit one of the entrances to Ariel, and here Ariel is right here. If we pan out a little bit, okay, to give you a bigger perspective of where we are. Okay, here would be Tel Aviv, and here would be Jordan, and here's Eli, here's Ariel. Okay, our next stop will take us to Tapuach, Kfar Tapuach, and I'm going to go into another programmer called Google Tour Builder. There's some advantages of this program that I wasn't able to use with the other program. Now I want to show you where again where Tapuach sits. Tapuach is known as sits at this Tzomah Tapuach, and here we have a major intersection or junction. This way here to our right, to the east, goes into the Jordan Valley. Again, to the left and to the west goes to Ariel. We're coming from Jerusalem, and we're heading north towards Shechem. So this is very strategically Tapuach, which is a settlement. It's about 40 years old. Has 150 families. It's very, very strategic. And about 3 years ago, Yeshivat Hesder Elon Moreh decided to expand, and we opened up another yeshiva here in this area. I want to show you what it's like to here. This is 3 years ago, a little bit more than 3 years ago. You can see that we're clearing the land. Here's the beginning of one of the buildings. This is the view from, this is called Yeshivat Hesder Avinoam Tapuach. Yeshivat Hesder Avinoam Tapuach is named after Avinoam Cohen Zatzal. Avinoam was one of our students who was serving. He was a lieutenant in the artillery unit. He unfortunately was killed during a training accident in the Golan. It was actually supposed to be his last. He was supposed to get out of the army after he'd finished the exercise that he was on, and his mobile artillery piece fell off a cliff, and he died. And so his memory lives on here at Yeshivat Hesder Avinoam Tapuach, and you can see from here this how strategically we're overlooking this intersection, Tzomah Tapuach. Again, this is the view out towards. This is the view towards Shechem. It's a little bit of not a cloudy day, and today this is the campus where just 3 years ago there was nothing. Today there are over 100 students who are learning on this hillside, and we hope that within another year or so we will move to our more permanent location in West Tapuach, which is just to the right. Will be to the right, where we have a few acres of land that have been given to us by the government. Okay. Moving back to Google Earth, we will now head towards. We will head to one of my favorite places, which is Hawara. Hawara, is a Arab town that is between Tapuach and Shechem. I guess you could say almost it's even suburban, part of suburban Shechem. And here you have KFC, and this is what the road the sort of main road in that we go through in Hawara on our way to out to Elon Moreh. That's what it looks like. So next up, before we get to we would have passed the Yishuv, the settlement of Itamar, and we passed a place called Salem, and it says in Bereshit, Vayavo Yaakov Shalem Ir Shechem Asher Be'eretz Canaan V'o Mipadan Aram V'chen Epenei Ha'ir. And Jacob arrived safe in the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, having come thus from Padan Aram, and he encamped safely before the city. And so this is the view as we have passed Itamar. We're coming up on Salem, which is over here. Now, as people who have been with me know before, that when it says Salem, it's also Salem is also Shalem. It's not only that this event is taking place after Yaakov has spent time in the house of Lavan. He has also had to fight with Esav, and so most commentators say that he was unharmed spiritually from his time with Lavan, and he was unharmed physically by Esav. But then Rashi also says that Shalem is the name of a town, and as we say that Salem is Shalem. Now, one of the things that I tell people, really before, probably when we just get on the bus and we start going, is that, and we're now in 2020, 5 years ago, what really was essentially my last night of work, my first night of work, I'm sorry, my first night of work, we were heading to Yerushalayim, and we get to the Inbal Hotel, and we hear that unfortunately there has been a shooting, and soon enough we learn that that there have been 2 murders, and we learn the tragic news that Rabbi Eitam Henkin and his wife Naama were both killed in cold blood in front of their 4 children. And we go on this road. Here's a memorial that has been put up in their memory, where the murder took place. And of course, here are the Henkins who really were killed well before their time. A terrible, terrible tragedy. And today, well, if you're in the States, today is their yard site, and may their memories be blessed, and may their neshamas have an aliyah. So we're about to get to Elon Moreh, and if we had just taken a helicopter and flown there, and we would be standing on the hill, I would say to you, I would quote this pasuk from Genesis, from Bereshit 12:6. Vayavor Avram ba'aretz makom Shem ad Elon Moreh Knani az ba'aretz. Avram passed through the land as far as the site of Shem at the terebinth of Moreh. The Canaanites were then in the land. This is really the story where the story of the Jewish people begins. Here, right here. We will go there. Now, one of the other things is that you can get a sense of what the topography is. Here we are circling around. Here's Elon Moreh, and here we're obviously up in the hills, in the mountains. Elon Moreh is about 850 meters. That's about a little less than 3,000 feet. And down here is a valley. This is called Emek Terzah. Okay, and now I'm getting a little bit turned around here. But so this is the place here up in Elon Moreh. This is where Avram, the first place that Avram gets to. This is where God promises him that his children will inherit the land. Actually, if you a little bit of a quiz, if anybody knows where the first stop, that the first place that he stepped into when he came over, let's say, the border from Canaan, I understand that it was actually in Rosh HaNikra, and then he heads to Elon Moreh. Here we're going to go to Elon Moreh, and here you have a view of the Yishuv. Okay. Now, this is the view from what's called Mitzpeh Ilan. Mitzpeh Ilan overlooks Emek Terzah. Again, Emek Terzah, what's important about Emek Terzah? We know that the Beno Slavchad, there were 5 daughters of Slavchad. One of them was named Terzah. And Slavchad dies. He doesn't have any sons. The daughters go to Moshe and say that it's unfair their father dies and that they would not have an inheritance. So they're given this land here. Now, just a few weeks ago, we read about the blessings and the curses. That we're told that when Bnei Israel comes into the land, they will cross over Emek Terzah. They will by Derech Mavo Hashemesh. This is called the Way of the Sun. This area here is only place that 2 million people could have crossed on foot, and ended up going to Har Grizim and Har Ival, standing between Har Grizim and Har Ival, where the blessings and the curses were said. We will get to that in a little bit. This is Mitzpeh Ilan. Mitzpeh Ilan also, I should just note, who was Ilan? For those of you who are familiar with Yeshiva Hesder, where we combine learning in yeshiva for 2 to 3 years, and then the guys go and they serve in the army. They serve in units with other with non-religious soldiers as well, and they happen to some of our students back in the year I would say it's like 2003, 2002, something like that. 2000, maybe it was 2003, 2004. Whatever the year was, it was before the Second Lebanon War. They had a commander named Elon Gabai. Elon Gabai came from a very left-wing secular home in Tivon, up in the Galil, and he was given this group of yeshiva students to train, and he had no idea what to do with them, and they drove him crazy with all their questions, and he did not know necessarily how to can you joke around with them? What can you say to them? Do they like sports? And they grew very fond of each other. And unfortunately, Elam was killed during the course of a battle in the Second Lebanon War, and his soldiers from the yeshiva decided that they wanted to do something in his memory, and they created this scenic overlook that is dedicated in his memory, and every Shabbat before lunch the guys come and they visit Elon, and it's a really beautiful thing. It's a beautiful the connection that you can see that the effect of soldiers, religious soldiers and non-religious, and really that's the beauty of what we're supposed to be doing is people coming together, and really trying to build unity. Here's some more different views. Okay, here's the local makolet. Don't know exactly what. Again, this is a view of Har Gerizim and Har Eval. This is Shechem right between it. Right here, Kever Yosef will be in here, but we can't. You can't see it from the distance. And another view of Mitzpeh Elon. Just another view of out towards Shechem. And Mitzpeh Elon. On a clear day, you can see to the Hermon, and if the Hermon has snow, it's an added bonus. So now what we would do, if this was Chol Hamoed Sukkot, and we were together in the Elon Moreh, we would have davened Marav, we would have had a snack, and then we would have rushed down the buses, and we would head out to Kever Yosef. Now, just to give you a perspective that you can't really get when we go there, is here's Shechem. We're in the middle of Shechem. This is where Kever Yosef is. There's a school here. This is an alley. This is actually something called Tel Balata, which Tel Balata is considered the original Shechem. Okay, and interestingly enough, you see how built up Shechem is, but this area was left alone. The PA has done interestingly enough, protected it. I guess there is some kind of holiness to it, or something, that they have some respect for it. We will move back to this other program where I will take you to Kever Yosef. Here is the view from inside Kever Yosef. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play a 5-minute video. This video is from a trip that was taken by a group of people and posted on YouTube. The trip was November 6th, 2018, and it really gives you a sense of what it's like to go to Kever Yosef. You'll see the buses. They have these buses that go. They will stop at I think this bus stops in Summit Tapurach and picks up soldiers. There's a whole convoy, and you get a sense of what it's like to go, and sort of what the whole atmosphere is like. So without further ado.
He was basically Sarah Gidor of Asher. She was a very old lady, and he said, "Do you know where is Yosef buried?" He says, "The Mitzrim took Yosef, they buried him in a metal coffin, and they put him on the Nilus. For what? That all the river Nilus should be always blessed on the Zechut of Yosef HaTzadik." The Gemara says that Moshe Rabbeinu went over there, and he says, "Yosef, Yosef, you made us to make an oath. We are leaving Mitzrayim. Either you come out or we are clean and free of our oath. At that moment, says the Gemara, the Aaron, the coffin, he basically floated from the Nilus, and Moshe Rabbeinu took his bones. The thing is, Rabotai, why he's in Shechem? The Gemara Masechet Sotah says, Yosef HaTzadik, the last time he was in Eretz Israel, he was taken down to Mitzrayim, he's in Shechem, in Shechema. And we see Pasuk Vayeshev, that he went to see his brothers, the brothers went to Vayomer Shechema, they came to Shechem. Says the Gemara, he was taken from Shechem, the last time of Israel, and basically, now when they came back, the Bnei Israel, after 210 years, back to Eretz Israel, they brought back Yosef HaTzadik into his town of Shechem.
שר הטבחים מכרו אותו, ישוע כהרף עין שם אותו על כל ביתו, איש קדוש עומד בראש, רוח אלוקים איתו, כל אשר הוא עושה השם מצליח בידו, זולי חשמה הייתה אשת אדונו, מעשית תמורתה ומיתן כפרתו וכל צבעי הקשת הפרוצה.
We're going back on the bus, so I don't really know what to say. But so far so good. No complaints. We're out of here. Go on it.
Let's go, we're going.
We're in a bulletproof bus with bulletproof windows, so I'm not feeling too excited. I'm actually a little paranoid, but it's all good because I got the cameraman on my side.
רחמים זרקו אותו, הנה פרעה חולם חלום ואין מי שיפתור אותו, נער עברי קטון, חלומות יודע פתור, הביאו אותו מהר אליי, הוציאו מן התור, שכולם השתחוו אליך, רק הכיסא יגדל ממך ויעקב אבינו, מביתו שרה שכינה, שרח בת אשר נכדתו שרה מלכינה, עוד יוסף חי ומלך במצרים, יש לו שני בנים מנשה ואפרים, עוד יוסף חי, עוד יוסף די ברחמים, תבנת ירושלים, עוד יוסף חי ומלך במצרים, יש לו שני בנים מנשה ואפרים, עוד יוסף חי, עוד יוסף די תבנת ירושלים, עוד יוסף חי ומלך במצרים, יש לו שני בנים מנשה ואפרים, עוד יוסף די ברחמים, תפדה את ירושלים.
It's really a special, it's a very special atmosphere to be able to go go into Kever Yosef, to be able to dive in there, to dance, to get a little chant. It's really a very unique experience, and I hope that in that short video that you were able to get a little bit of a feel for it. I know one of the challenges of this is that the video is really, it's only as good as the speed of my computer. There's a little bit of a lag, and it can be one of the things that when I was sort of testing this out, was hoping that it goes smoothly. I can also send, if people want, I can send them the direct link to this as well. So we will move back to our as I mentioned, we had when you look at from Elon Moreh, you see Har Grizim and Har Yuval. Those would be two places that that you would be looking at. Actually, here's a view from, and this is taken from the from a winery called Kever Kabir, the Kabir winery in Elon Moreh. And again, is looking out, as you can see, here's Har Grizim, here's Har Yuval. This is Har Yuval, is known as the land of the mountain of the curses, because it's barren and nothing would grow on it. Har Bracha is more built up. You can't have as good a view of it, but maybe we'll see another view. Okay, back there. And we're actually going to go to Har Yuval. One of the things that's on Har Yuval is that after the Jewish people, after the blessings and the curses, and the Jewish people re-accept the Torah, Yeshua builds a mizbeach. It's called Mizbeach Yeshua, and he offers sacrifices to God. And they have found up here the remnants of what they believe is Yeshua's mizbeach, and also remnants of a wine press. If we go back here to this, we talk a little bit just about wine growing, or grape growing, or grape wine production in Elon Moreh. We have two wineries in Elon Moreh, and it's very interesting because there's a pasuk that says that you will build, or you will plant many vineyards in the Shomron, and I'm pleased to say that this Kever Kabir is an award-winning winery. One of the years we've actually gone there, and we have done a wine tasting. Here's what Shechem itself looks like. It's also Nablus. One of the things that we know about the Romans, when they took over a town, they tried to Romanize it, and so they changed the name from Shechem to Nablus, Neopolis, new city. Okay. Just one of the things that I also find interesting is that when you're traveling around this area, and it's so vast and so big, and you go back, and we go back to Yosef and his brothers, and there's the story that is related, that Yosef, Yaakov asks Yosef to go and to find his brothers and see what they're up to, and so Yosef goes out, and he just happens to meet a man, okay. And the man says, what are you looking for? And he tells him, I'm looking for my brothers. And the man tells him that he had seen them and where they were. And given how vast an area this is, it just seems kind of random that that Yosef would just by chance run into another person. Again, before we end, what I'm going to do is show another video. Again, this video is a video that I came across. I think it's very interesting. Just as a word of, this is a video that's put out by Christians, but of Harival, that they do with an Israeli Jewish tour guide. I thought that it's really very difficult to get up to Harival, to Mizbeach Yeshua. I've never been up there. You need to go with an army escort. You need special permission. And so this 10-minute video I thought would be very interesting to show because it's really unique. It really is fascinating and has some really beautiful scenery.
I am so excited to be where we are standing right now. We're on the mountains of Israel in Samaria, the biblical heartland. What is this structure right behind us?
It's unbelievable. This is the altar of Joshua bin Nun. Here they gathered together all the tribes, the 12 tribes of Israel. 6 stand on this mountain, on Gerizim mountain. The other 6 stood here. And
this is Mount Ebal.
This is Mount Ebal.
From the Bible.
From the Bible. Gerizim and Ebal. And here stood the first time of the tabernacle. They put it here. The Ark of the Covenant also stood here. And the holy priest used to sacrifice the animals that they are allowed and pure to eat on this structure.
This altar, Yakil, 3,300 years old, by the way. Joshua's altar, Joshua ben Nun, son of Nun, as you said. Not only was the altar here with the sacrifices, this is sacred ground we're standing on, the Ark of the Covenant and the tabernacle, and probably 1 million Israelites standing all around.
Yes, they used to do the ceremony that Moses commanded them just a few years before. You will cross the Jordan River, you will go just ahead straight to this mountain, and on Ebal mountain you will build the altar, you will sacrifice the animals as I command you, and you will take the stones that they are onion stones. It's not allowed that the iron tool will touch on them.
The Bible says that, right? God commands the people of Israel. These must be unhewn stones. No iron tools were used on them. And hey, they look pretty unhewn to me.
Yes, they are natural stones. Yes, they just pick them up from all these mountains and they build it together. I don't know, maybe 1,000 people, maybe more than 1,000 people just walk together and build this amazing altar. And after this, it was a sacred moment of the people. It was one of the sacred sites, and they used to use this altar even more than 100 years.
God gives a command to build this altar. For the people at home who might not understand the animal sacrifices of the Old Testament, explain why God commanded Joshua to build this altar as on Mount Ebal, as is described in the book of Deuteronomy and the book of Joshua.
They have a command in Deuteronomy and also in Joshua, verses that explain them how to build this altar. And it say to them, you can't take an iron tool and touch the stones. They need to be onion stones. This is the first command. The other command that they got
from God.
From God.
It's coming from the top.
Coming from the top. You can't use iron tools. Why? Because the iron tools, give you a death, and the altar will bring the life for all the humanity, not only for the Israelites, for all the humanity.
Israel is a light unto the nations.
Yes, definitely. This is the purpose of the altar. And when you are coming and sacrifice, you can't go on steps when you go and sacrifice for me. You need to have a ramp. And here, as we saw, you have two ramps. And these ramps, the priest used to go on the ramp and to climb to the top of the altar, here, just here. And in that rooms, we have 4 rooms inside. They butcher the animal, even it was a sheep, cattle, or a goat. If we go back to this altar and about the findings that we find here, or Adam Zartal found here.
Yeah, tell us about that. Tell us how it was found and how he kind of uncovered it and how they came to the conclusion
that it's here.
That this was Joshua's altar.
It was a survey. After the war of 67, Israel understand that there is opportunity to find our ways, yes, to find these ancient sites of the Israelites in the Samaria and in Judea. So the government making a survey, asked for a survey, and they took archaeologists, and one of the archaeologists was Adam Zartal, that he was a cripple, yes, in his legs. Yes, he couldn't stand on his legs.
And this is a mountainous, rugged terrain up here.
We can't go from there to here. It wasn't.
You and I could barely walk with 2 good legs.
And you remember how was difficult to climb to here. So he was a guy that he couldn't go on his legs, and he came, step by step.
He crawled.
He crawled. Yes.
He literally crawled.
Yes, yes. He came step by step here, and he found this area that it was till the height of this sketch.
To the height, okay. The sketch, I see it kind of looks like black paint or kind of marker almost along the rocks. That's what you're referring to.
Yes, yes. It was covered by mud and by the stones. Why? Because when the ancient Israelites, when they left this site and went to Shiloh, so they didn't want that somebody will looted this altar or somebody will sacrifice again on it, because the sacred went to Shiloh.
Yes.
They didn't want two different sacred places.
It's interesting, Yakil. So the centers of worship for the Jewish people, the Israelites crossed the Jordan into the land. This is kind of the first sacred place where, look, the tabernacle's there, the Ark of the Covenant, the sacrifices are here. Then it moves to Shiloh, and then we eventually move to Jerusalem.
Yes.
Which is now the holiest site for the Jewish people.
Also, the eternal flame was here. They sacrificed 2 things, animals and a flame.
You mentioned that eternal flame, Yakil. Hey, it's windy up here. It's chilly. Our cameras are shaking. The audio is rough because of the wind, but hey, the flame still burned because God was in it.
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle of God. And it sounds like the discovery of Joshua's altar was a miracle. Tell us more. Okay, he's crawling up here.
So they came here and they started to dig, and they saw this structure, and it's not tall as it's now, and they didn't understand what is a fortress, what is it? And
you can see it. It actually kind of looks like a fortress. You can see it being a lookout or something. The enemy's coming.
But what is the problem to understand? The difficulty is to understand it is a fortress. There is no way to enter inside.
As you said, Yakil, there's literally no way in other than those ramps.
Yes, even only when you see the ramps, you understand that this is some structure that you need to climb on it and you need to worship on it. So they came here and they found bones of cattle, sheep, and goats. So there is no difference between them. Why? Because all of them are pure animal.
That's biblical.
It's biblical. You can't sacrifice camel, you can't sacrifice horse, no donkey. So definitely this site is a Israelite ancient site. And this altar is Israelite. All the pottery shards that they found here, and there are thousands of pottery shards, was from the period of 1300 before BC.
BC, that's the period of Joshua. That's exactly the period, exactly the time frame. And by the way, we needed a military escort to come up here, Yakil. This is not many people come here. This is a very isolated area. Why is that? Why did we need a military escort to come? Who graciously brought us up? Very thankful to the IDF. Such a special site, such a pivotal site in the history of the Jewish people, in the history of the Bible. Why aren't more people coming here?
The site that we are standing on, it's on the B zone. B zone, it means that the Palestinians are controlled in this area.
So this is a Palestinian-controlled area.
Yes, yes. So when we are coming here, even if it's with a military escort, we are putting our legs in this area and we say, listen, we won't leave our ancestors' land.
Yeah, you're walking in the footsteps of your ancestors.
And this is one of the commands that God bring to Abraham. He told to Abraham, if you want to have this land, you need to go from the north to the south, from the east to the west, from every place that you will stand on it, it will be yours.
Every Bible believer, I think, needs to see this site up close. It's amazing. Yakil, thanks for showing us the way today at Joshua's altar, an amazing place. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it, Yakil.
Folks, what an experience it was to visit Joshua's altar. Wow. Now, after the break, we're going to stay in Samaria to hear some of the great things that are happening today.
Okay, again, I thought that it's a really great video. It's very informative. You really get to see something that really most of us don't get to go to, and it's really the photography is phenomenal, and it gives you a perspective of what they found up on Har Ebal. And so at this point, I think this is really sort of the end of what I had prepared in terms of a formal presentation. Let me just see one thing here. Just going to go. Is anyone still with us? Okay. One of the things that I had prepared was the. I also have a map of the deal of the century. I don't know if anybody would want to just see a map of that. If you do, maybe type something in the chat, and I could take a quick look at that. I also see that there's a lag between my talking and what you are seeing. I will just do a quick, show this quick map of the deal of the century, just because it had been in the news and until recently, until we made peace with the United Arab Emirates and with United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. So the whole issue of sovereignty has sort of gone to a back burner. But one of the things that you got a perspective of, I hope, is sort of the area that we were talking about. I could actually go back. Just go back for one moment. I'm going to go back to Tapuach. And we'll go back out. But I think that you again, something with Google Maps, you're able to get like a bird's eye view of where the Jordan Valley is. One of the things that was much discussed around the deal of the century is places, let's say places like Elon Moreh, like Hebron, and how access would be to them. There had been some talk that you would be able only to access Elon Moreh versus through the Jordan Valley, and that Hebron, for example, you would no longer be able to get through from Jerusalem, but you would have to go through Beersheba. For now, all this is on the back burner, and this is probably a discussion for another day in terms of the pros and cons of sovereignty, not sovereignty, but certainly we're, from my perspective, all this land is this is our ancestral homeland. As you can see, I think that one of the things that you get that I've tried to convey, and I always try to convey, is that really we're walking in the footsteps of our forefathers. Again, the story of Elon Moreh, story of our people, starts in Elon Moreh, but as we leave Jerusalem, we see step after step after step history of our ties to this land. We see our ties go back. Our roots are here. This is we're very much embedded, and we're very much connected to Eretz Yisrael. This is who we are. This is what we are, and I know that we all miss being together. We all miss being here. We all miss being in Yerushalayim. And again, I think that if we look, sort of to circle back to Yosef, and that who Yosef was. Again, this sense of transformation of sort of what Yosef went through, and how he was able to change, and how he was able to forgive, and that's a process that hopefully that we all sort of went through over Rosh Hashanah, over Yom Kippur, right? And then here during Sukkot, we take that outside, we take it to the Sukkah, we open ourselves up to the elements, and we take all the characteristics, all the different characteristics of all of our Avot, of Moshe, of Aaron, of David, and hopefully that we will this year we can take all their strength and everything that they give to us, and we can also transform it